Welcome to the BlackDuck Revival podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilkins. I'm excited to have you join me as I speak with a fascinating collection of folks, all of whom have in common that they've made a way for themselves by finding an intersection between thoughtful consideration and the tactile work of getting their hands dirty. This is an examination of intention, capability, and craft. It's where philosophy meets the blue-collar work ethic and where I find real value. Hey folks, this is a special podcast for me because it was recorded with my friend Jay Beyer at the end of, what up to this point has been kind of like the most epic hunt that I've been on to date. I live in Central Arkansas, and almost all my hunting has been done here over the past year as BlackDuck Revival has grown and different opportunities have presented themselves to me. I've been able to go to, a handful of states and try my hand waterfowling or turkey hunting, and in this case, elk hunting, in a place that was very different from what I'm used to, and different elevation-wise, different environment-wise, and it was far away. It took me 2-3 days of driving most of the day to get over there, and I was elk hunting up in the mountains, in the snow, scanning and glassing and looking for animals in a way that I'm not used to. And it kind of came at a very perfect moment in my life, I think, for this adventure. I really needed a little bit of time to clear my head and kind of make a few course corrections. And I think that's what happened. And so beyond this conversation, which I think is super meaningful and very in-depth and really is illustrative of who Jay is and why I appreciate him so much and why I like him so much and why I think he's so cool. It also just kind of holds a special place in my heart because it's always going to be, kind of long-form snapshot of something that I think will remain a very meaningful experience in my life. But Jay Beyer has been influencing and kind of setting a standard for outdoor photography for the last 20 years or so. I was lucky enough to meet him a few years back, and we just kind of instantly took a liking to each other, and that developed into a really cool friendship, and it's always fun to make friends as an adult, and Jay is one of those relationships that I'm so thankful for, and, it's already paid dividends way beyond what I ever could have imagined, and I'm excited to see what we have to talk about, 5 and 10 years from now. So please enjoy this podcast with my friend, photographer Jay Beyer. Hey, welcome back to the BlackDuck Revival podcast. This week I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm joined by my friend, photographer, skier, entrepreneur, adventurer, Jay Beyer. We're in the shop that he built. I guess, do you call this a shop or a garage?
Man, I call it a garage, but yeah, it can go by many names.
Yeah. All right. So we're in
it's my happy place.
Oh my God. That was difficult for me to hear, man. But no, so we're in Jay's garage that he built over the course of about a year with your son.
Yeah, like 4 months.
And surrounded by tons of hunting and skiing gear, mountain bikes, all sorts of cool stuff, and a very adorable poodle pointer named Stella is laying right here. She's right in front of a curing chamber with some moldy salamis that are soon to be delicious charcuterie. But so I've been here in Utah for the past few days elk hunting with Jay. He was kind enough to invite me up here and then proceeded to kick the shit out of me in these mountains for a few days. But we were successful. We'll talk about that a little bit. But just first of all, man, Jay, thank you so much for having me here in your home and around your family and, essentially guiding me on this super gnarly and really fun elk hunt, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks for coming out. Pumped to have you.
Yeah. No, it's been a kind of been a big deal for me, and in many different ways, I think I needed that hunt in my life right now, and I'm sure at some point I'll write about that. But oh no, I am writing about it because we ended up doing this hunt as a shoot for Sitka, and I've got to do a article that'll, I think, be out pretty soon. But man, I could talk to you about all sorts of stuff, and we've been talking about all sorts of things for the last few days. But man, I just think that the life you've created is something really, really special. I thought that before I came out here and got to see like your space and meet your family and your son Eli and your wife Rachel, but now I'm even more impressed with it. And so that's kind of what this podcast is about. So I'd like to delve into that a little bit, and maybe I'll just let you describe kind of what you do for a living, and then maybe we can talk about how you got into that, because I think all of it is so unique and so interesting.
Cool, man. Yeah, I take pictures. I'm a lucky human that gets to travel all over the world and hang out with lots of cool people and do fun things and take pictures of them. And in all sorts of realms, I started my career shooting mostly skiing and snowboarding, so just snow. And then that morphed into like my other hobbies, mountain biking and trail running and fly fishing. And then I kind of got back into hunting 15 years ago. And it was shortly after that I got pulled into the hunting industry quickly, and that became a big chunk of what I shoot, what I work on year round. But yeah, that's in the simplistic way. That's my life. That's what I do.
So when you say you're a photographer, I mean, there's lots of people. I mean, there's like wedding photographers. There's like the Sears portrait photographers where you put your arm up on like the carpeted block, right? In my mind, I would kind of describe you as like an adventure photographer, and I don't even know if that's an actual term or not.
No, I think outdoor adventure would be, before I got into hunting, I think that's where people would put me, an outdoor adventure photographer. Because I used to shoot a lot of ice climbing and rock climbing and mountain climbing and all that stuff. And so that was in like that climbing, skiing mode was kind of the outdoor adventure. And then biking and trail running kind of got pushed into that. And I was shooting fly fishing just because I'd fly fished my whole life. And I love it. And now I'm starting to learn like the underwater photography. That's been kind of fun, new project in the last year.
So like that means when you see these like gnarly pictures of, people that are doing these crazy backflips off of like wild mountains and like these remote locations, like you're taking pictures like that, right?
Yeah. Yep. Skiing crazy lines or snowboarding, and then big jumps and deep powder in Japan. Yeah. Like anything, yeah, that's interesting, visually interesting. And I really enjoyed traveling to unique places that have snow. I mean, I live in Utah, so this is one of the best places you can live on the planet for snow. Don't tell anyone, but it's a wonderful space. And then I spend a lot of time in Alaska. I grew up in Alaska, but I go there almost every spring to shoot skiing up there, because it's just a whole other place, a whole different kind of snow, and what snow sticks to up there and how to shoot it is just a whole nother realm. It's super fun and enjoyable to me. And then I normally do a Japan trip every year, which is like the deepest snow of anywhere consistently that you can get. So all these places, there's great days everywhere you can go for snow and for skiing or snowboarding. But the difference in these three places I mentioned, Utah, Alaska, Japan, they're just so consistent every year, so consistently really good, and you can plan on it. So in my earlier years, I spent a lot of time in South America. And in South America, you never know what you're going to get. And you're down there for a month, and you might get one good day with good light and good snow conditions, because it can be super warm, it can be really cold, and you just don't get that really good snow often. And sometimes it's a day, and sometimes it's a whole trip, but way less consistent. And that's part of the fun of it. It was a bit more of a struggle for me in those days because I was working on spec, which was, if you don't know what that is, you're shooting stuff on the speculation of selling it down the road. So I would fund everything in the beginning, and I would have to make up for what I sold on the back end. So I was funding all my own trips. Now people pay me to go wherever I go and do whatever I do. So it was harder back then to go on a trip, pay all this money, and be like, okay, now I have to sell what I made. And if it wasn't a good trip, then it was like just a bunch of lost money, as opposed to if a client sends you somewhere, you always do your best, but sometimes you come home and you're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. This is what we ended up with, and you can't really complain about that.
So who are what are some of the clients you have? Like, who are the companies you work with and for?
There's not many these days. I narrowed it down because there was a point in time where I had a ton of clients, and I've narrowed it down to Patagonia, who does that's who I'm shooting mostly: ski, snowboard, trail running, mountain biking, fly fishing. That's that client. And they do clothing. And then Sitka, hunting clothing. One of my very big clients, Yeti, coolers and drinkware. And then Mystery Ranch. They make backpacks in all the different realms that I shoot, from ski stuff, they make fire stuff, they make military stuff, they make backpacking stuff. And so I get to shoot year round for them, kind of like how I do for Patagonia.
Okay. Man, how did you get in? You've kind of told me this already, but like, describe to me how you got into this, because it's one thing. So I think it's worth explaining too. Like, you're really participating in all these activities that you're documenting. So like, if you're going to be taking pictures of some really crazy, awesome ski jumping, like, you're skiing up there, like, you're humping it up into the mountain as well.
Yeah, I'm not hitting the jumps.
Not that part, but
everyone I work with is extremely talented, and I feel very lucky to get to work with them. And it's so fun to watch these amazing athletes do what they do. And there are times like I have to get down the things that they ski. Obviously, they do it very fast and aggressive, and I do it very slow. And I have a big, heavy pack with a bunch of camera gear in it. But I have to keep up. And yeah, so you want to go into how I got into it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that story.
I think everyone kind of anyone who ends up as a photographer has an interesting story. I never went to school for it. My degree was elementary ed, and I later got a degree in biology. But my wife bought a camera, and we were living in Minnesota at the time, and we were going to both quit our jobs and live in a van and just climb rocks all over the States. And so she bought a camera before that trip because she wanted to document this trip that we were going to go on. And not being super technically savvy, and my father was kind of an amateur photographer at the time and really into it. Before we left on this trip, we went home to kind of say bye. We didn't know when we were going to be back or where we were going to end up. And so I talked to my dad, and he showed me all this stuff about this camera so I could help Rach understand and get her going in this capacity of shooting photos. Well, you fast forward to the end of the trip, and the camera was mine, and I was taking more photos than she was. She never really took a lot of photos with it, and so it ended up as my camera. And I was very fortunate in that. I mean, a lot of my friends are pretty amazing athletes in themselves. When you start out in these realms, you kind of have to go with who you know and what you have around you. And so I would just take my camera with me on climbing trips and skiing trips, and every morning I would go out, or every evening, and when I go fishing, and just take pictures of my friends. And I was just lucky enough that, man, what I thought looked cool in my pictures, people started picking up on, and they thought it looked pretty cool too. And then obviously over the years it's been refined quite a bit, and I've gotten to work with some amazing athletes all over the globe, and yeah, that was kind of the beginning. Thanks to my wife.
Probably most of us that are lucky to have good wives can say that about a lot of stuff in our lives.
Yep.
Man, we talked about this, I don't remember. Yeah, I think maybe yesterday on the Pack Out. We talked about like the idea of artistry. And you seemed like slightly hesitant to describe yourself that way, but I don't think there's any doubt that that's what you are, and that's what you're doing, is you're putting art into the world. So I'd be interested to hear a little bit about your thought process when you're like composing these images, because what I've noticed, or what I've learned in the last couple of years, as I've kind of gotten into this space or this industry or whatever, is I really didn't have, I don't think I understood this type of photography to be art. Like I thought it was just documentation. And now I have a very different understanding of that, like through working with you or through like my wife, Marianne, is doing a bunch of photography and taking pictures of, some of the articles and stuff that I'm writing and doing stuff in her own right as well. And what I've seen through speaking with other photographers, like well-established people, is that to some degree, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like to some degree, the technical part of it can be, learned or taught, but that it's super important for someone to have like the eye for it and conceptualization of like textures and composition and all that. So how are you approaching your photography, and like how are you trying to convey whatever it is you're trying to convey?
Great question. It's to me at some point it's kind of second nature. I've been doing this for 20 years, but you kind of do. You learn a lot, and just there's a lot of trial and error in the beginning. I read every book that I was available and that was relevant to what I was doing. So like I learned a lot of my technical skills just from reading books. And then what I sought out is, like I wanted to capture moments that made people want to be there, right? That's like my goal. Like anything that gets put out, I want someone to be like, man, that's what I want to be doing. That's where I want to be at any point in time. They see it and then like it stops them. Like that's in my mind, that's like the ending goal. And a lot of that is place and light and sometimes it's aspirational and sometimes it's attainable, but it's like having like that person or someone can put themselves in whoever subject I'm shooting shoes and be like, that's where I want to be. And for me, it just comes down to now that I go on these shoots, like with you or whoever, like I just want to make whatever I'm doing look as like fun or dirty or gritty or whatever it is that I need to convey, but still people want to put themselves in that spot. And I always want to do it in as good a light as I can, as good a conditions I can. And good conditions doesn't necessarily mean like sunny day. It can be like cloudy and rainy and gnarly out, like sheep hunts, it's always like it rains all day, every day on every sheep hunt I've ever been on, and that's good. That's like the weather you want, because that's what you want to portray. That to me, that's like the good weather or good situation to put yourself in to like create meaningful imagery. And not everyone would want to be there, but like the people who want to be there, they can't. They really want to be there, So I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense.
No, man, I think it does. You've mentioned several times already, just since we've been talking in this recording, about light. So could I delve a little bit deeper into that? Because that's something I've been noticing is incredibly important to like these compositions, and what really turns it from being just, it seems like that light is kind of like part of your paintbrush, or so to speak.
It is the entire paintbrush, right? And so you only have fleeting seconds at times to like compose what you want. Like, composition is probably the toughest one, right? I'll get back into light too, but I think the composition is what separates people in the realm of photography, because you can get taught the whole technical side of it. You can understand how a camera works, but if you can't consistently compose imagery that you're proud of or your editor is proud of and wants to print, then that's like the difference in like making it a career or making it just fun for yourself, and personally I think that a lot of that comes with knowing, since I do everything I do outside, right? I can't create the light, and so what I have to do is use what I'm given, and be it waking up early, which is a lot in like the ski and snowboard realm, is lots of hiking in the dark and getting somewhere for like the early light of the day or the best light of the day. And that I've never been that afraid of waking up early or putting the work in. I think that's been a part of why I was successful. But yeah, the light it's everything, man. That's what makes an exposure. That's what creates a photo. If you have bad light or you don't know how to use the light you have been given correctly to take that image, there's a lot of trial and error, I suppose, involved, but and then you work with like your contrast, like when I started shooting hunting, it really threw me for a loop, because if you don't really pay attention to the contrast of light and dark subjects and you're shooting a person in camo, it's really hard to see them. You have to make a person in camo stand out without looking like they're standing out, because your client wouldn't want them to stand out, but you have to be able to see them, and then you can't have them like disappear and still make it like a good image. Like that was a tough thing for me to put in the beginning, put light and dark subjects that are same tone together in a way that you can see them, but you don't really want to see them super well, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of a weird dynamic, dichotomy, but it was really fun. Like a lot of that stuff I enjoy, like the challenge of it. Like when I shot my first whitetail hunt, I was just like, everyone just like sits in a tree. How do I do that differently? Like, what do I do? How do I, Sitka sent me on a whitetail hunt, and I went and got every single whitetail publication I could find. I looked through everything, and I'm like, well, I had ideas, like stuff that people weren't doing that I was able to take out of, different realms of that I've worked in before, and try to apply that to whitetail to try to make it look different than what everyone else is doing. Because I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. I want to try to stand out and create something unique. Because that's truly what my job is. I need to go somewhere and make whatever else anyone else is doing. Try to make something that looks better than that. Or what's currently available. And that's not easy. That's a super big challenge, but that's also, I think, the enjoyable part of it.
Do you think that you've gotten to a point where your images are recognizable as your images?
To me? Man, I don't know. That would be a question probably for my editors better than me. I think there's some, there's people that copy you, but you copied people to get to where you are. Like there's many times I see like a photo in a magazine or a book, and I'm like, well, I like that, but I would like this better. You see this concept, you're like, oh, I want to take this concept, but I want to try. Like I have lists in my phone, different seasons and different activities, and just photos that I want to shoot that I think are different that I've never seen. Like I'm driving and I'll like stop, pull over, and like write down this duck hunting shot I want to get, because it just like occurred to me, and I'm like, that would be amazing if I can create that, And so I have lists of that, and hunting and biking and fishing and whatever. There's like the standard stuff you kind of like stick with for like a client, but those are like the bucket list shots that I want to get, eventually that they just stick in my head.
I just thought of this. Would you ever, so like all of your work is really like you're doing it for clients. So you're doing it for these companies, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought or like considered or wanted to have a collection of your own, like, I don't know, a coffee table book or something like that?
Man, I've been asked that quite a few times. Maybe at some point, when I feel like I can't, there's nothing down there for me to chase anymore, and I feel like I've done my career, then I would feel like maybe that would be it. But like every time I do my website and a year later I look at it and I'm like, why did I even put these up there? You just feel like you're out, because once it's done, you don't feel like it's like you were saying about your albums, right?
Yeah.
Once you created that, you're like, I did that already. I want to find the next thing. And like I feel like I'm very much that way, and in like shooting. Like once I nail this, I'm like, sweet. All right, what's the next project? And they don't. I mean, I got like these ones in the garage, right? Like these are some of my favorite photos I've ever taken this year or last year, whenever they were taken. But like all the long term, I could probably pick out 5 more every month, and depending on how I was feeling, they'd be different photos. So like, yeah, the coffee table book isn't appealing to me right now, but I think it'd be fun. I I just don't know from a business standpoint if that would make a lot of sense. Like I don't know if people would buy that, or maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know.
They would buy that, Jay. They would. They would definitely buy that. I would buy it. You could sell at least one copy. Man, I haven't even looked at this one right here. That's a rad picture. That mountain biking one.
Dude, the fun part about that, it's like this day was like 130 degrees out in southern Utah in like July.
It looks, dude, just from the picture, it looks like that's the temperature.
Dude, it was crazy. And we went out there for an evening and a morning session. And I brought like a sleeping bag. I don't even know what, because in my mind, I'm like, well, we're spending the night. I don't need a sleeping bag. And like we literally all just laid on top of, like out in the open on the ground, just like roasting all night. But it was like the only time I could get down here and do this. And I had like a 24-hour window. And that guy Jordan and my friend Karsten were the bikers. And the thing that I love about that shot is it so much reminds me of so many ski shots I take. But it's with a bike. Like it's like the dude looks like he's skiing powder, that gray dirt powder. But he's coming in and he's like smearing a turn like what skiers do, but he's on a mountain bike. And that's what I always dug about that. And then there's the composition, having that random rock, brown rock, and all this gray dirt was like visually very appealing to me, you know?
And then like kind of all the lines are moving.
Yeah.
The lines of those rivulets or those, I don't know, what do you call those, valleys or gullies?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
They're all kind of running in the same direction.
Yeah.
That's actually been a fun thing we've talked about, is the difference in terminology, like from place to place. Like, you know, I really only recently in the last year or so really understood what a drainage was. And it was last year at BlackDuck when I asked Matt McCormick, and he explained it to me, and I was like, oh, it's a holler. You know, like it's just a big holler.
Which is a way better word.
Holler's a great word, man. But, you know, it's funny because I've started to hear people in Arkansas talk about drainages, and I'm like, man, you're only saying that because of Meat Eater. No one ever called these drainages before. These were hollers.
That's all I've ever called it. Was it? Oh, you're saying in Arkansas.
In Arkansas, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
I just need to start doing around here, calling everything, back in that holler.
Dude, yes. Please do that, man. So I think this is actually a good segue into this, and then that might be a good segue to talk a little bit about the hunt, man. But I'm struck by how physical your life is, right? Like you have an incredible, like everything you're doing has an incredibly tangible and like tactile and physical component to it. And I'd say like impressively so. Like you keep referencing these athletes, man. Like I think you should probably be putting yourself in that category as like an athlete. I mean, even with your family, man, like what y'all are doing for fun, you know, like a lot of people, their fun or entertainment is sedentary, you know, and you guys are mountain biking, or you guys are skiing, and you guys are going on these trips to do those things. Like last year you took this really cool trip to this glacier, and we're like skiing every day for 2 weeks with your family and like camping in a little tent in the freezing cold. You know, and I think I very much understand now that part of what sets your photography, you know, your art apart is your connection to that physical lifestyle and, you know, your ability to perform. So
that was a Galen. Do you know Galen Rowell? Have you ever heard that? Mm-mm. Galen Rowell was like the pioneer of like outdoor adventure photography. You know, he was like a climber and a skier, and he's like probably one of the most well known. Like he also has amazing scenics and landscapes, which he's extremely well known for. He died 15 years ago. Regardless, he pioneered all kinds of techniques and stuff, and was one of the originals. And that was his book was one of the first books I ever read. My dad gave it to me when I was first starting this out. I was like, you should read this book. And his theory was, in order to shoot whatever you're shooting, you have to be an active participant. You cannot understand skiing and capture it and portray it to everybody if it isn't part of your life. You can't capture hunting regularly, consistently, if you're not a hunter. If you're not everything that I shoot, I'm an active participant in, and I agree with that. Like, I think, yeah, you can be hired to do whatever, but if it isn't like your passion, like, I think there's a chunk that you might be missing, or you might not understand. Like, even when I started shooting waterfowl, right? Because that was a new thing for me when I started working with Sitka, and I wasn't a duck hunter, and I've learned so much since then. Even though I'm a horrible waterfowler at this point in my life, I still understand it way more than when I first started shooting it. Like, I didn't know what a band was or why that was even there, and I still struggle with calling. But like, and you learn more, and the more you're immersed in an activity, I think the more little things you can pick out that are intricate, that are unique to that activity, and therefore you can show those things, or those things come out in your imagery, because you understand it deeper, so you're able to exploit that thing deeper, just from a knowledge standpoint. So I interrupted you, but
no. You're talking about what I want you to talk about. But I mean, look. So but you're not living this. You're not living this lifestyle. I feel like, and I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you'd be doing all the same stuff if you weren't taking pictures of it for a living.
For sure. It would be, yeah, it'd be a lot easier because I wouldn't have to carry cameras too.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I don't feel like my life would be that much different, other than I get told, you're going here to do this with this person, and in my time off, I do all the things that I shoot. I'd hunt all the time. I bike all the time. I'd ski all the time. Fish. I would be doing everything that I'm doing. I'd probably be doing it less because I'd have to work a normal job,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have the amount of time to do all the things that I love to do. So,
what? So that's something worth addressing. So there's a purposefulness. That's not the right word. There's intention, which probably gets overused by me, but it's important to me, so I'm going to keep saying it. So there's intention in this life that you've created, in this lifestyle, right? Have you spent much time thinking about why you've created, like, I'm super interested in, like, the idea of like a freelancer, right? Or like a person, like a freelancer is an entrepreneur, but kind of in a different way. And there's this, to some degree, like this little bit of a lack of stability that's kind of like inherent to it. And I think I know why my life is set up that way, because I'm a person who, like, I've got to just keep peeking over the mountaintop, and like what's over there and what's over there. And like, I've actually, I feel like one of the reasons I've done so many things in my life is because once I feel like I've gotten a handle on it, it doesn't interest me that much anymore. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So like, why have you built your life this way? Because you could work a regular job. You could be, teaching school or doing something like that, and then going out and shredding the gnar or the pow, all these terms I've been hearing.
Man, I don't want to keep using the word luck, but I'm able to, right? And I love all these things that I do, and it wasn't intentional, to do this. I mean, I want to do everything I do, and I want to do it more, and it's fun, and I love it. But man, I only worked a couple normal jobs, and I just knew I was different from, like, I was the weird one in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I was the weird one in every school I went to. Like, I was just different. I just saw things differently, and I wasn't good at conforming to what I was supposed to be doing if I didn't want to be doing it. When I worked as a carpenter was probably, as far as a normal job goes, probably the most fulfilling for me, because I think because of the activity level, right? And it was a daily sense of accomplishment. I mean, building houses and remodeling kitchens and bathrooms and things. But I still worked for someone, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I didn't realize that at the time, but that's why I kind of kept flipping through different jobs, because nothing was like, then I hit this, and I didn't think I could ever make this a job. I just loved it. I loved taking pictures, and in the beginning, I remember telling one of my closest friends, like, if this would just pay for my trips, I'd be stoked, I never thought of this as a career or a lifelong career, especially when you have like a 1-year-old, like, and luckily for me, my wife had our health insurance, but it turned into what it is, because this is all stuff I love to do, and I worked hard. I worked hard in the beginning, and when I thought I could do it as a career, when that finally occurred to me, I had one last job that I told them I would be there for a year, and I made it was a first desk job I'd ever had, and I made it like 10 months. Well, really, I made it 6 days, and I'm like, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't do this desk job thing, I thought I could, but I just couldn't. Like, it was like killing, just like I was dying every day. And I loved it. I loved the people, and I loved the company, and all the friends that I made, and all that was wonderful. But like every day I had to work, it was like I was dying inside. And I just knew I couldn't do that. And so I had to figure out a way out. And I knew I'd made a year commitment, but I made it 10 months, and I was just done. And luckily my wife kind of set me up as, like, she wanted to work as a traveling nurse for a little while. And she's like, well, I'll give you 2 years. You watch the kid. At the time, Eli was like 1.5, 2 years old. When I'm working, and when I'm not working, I'll watch Eli, and you go shoot photos. And I want to do this for about 2 years. So she's like, if you can't get your shit together in 2 years, then let's find something else for you. But if you can, then we'll see if this thing works. And I had a few clients at the time, but nothing was consistent, and money was never consistent. And we sold our house at the time, which I had fully remodeled, so we made a good chunk of money on that. And she was getting paid well, and we were getting our housing figured out. So like I could put my full mental effort in taking pictures, and I did. And at the end of that 2 years, I'd never worked a normal job after that. I would occasionally run out of money and have time. Like, I had a lot of time. And so I'd pick up a bathroom or, a kitchen or something just to make some money on the side. And then it just turned into, then my summers were packed with shoots and things to do, and it became a legitimate career. It might be the long-winded way of, I don't know how that even started.
Man, I don't even remember the initial question. But it's all good stuff, so I'm into it, man. Well, so, I don't know that I even really quite realized until we were, like, sitting down here and recording it. But, so, this is weird. So I'm going to talk about myself for just a moment here. But it's weird for me, and I've expressed to you a little bit, the last 2 years of my life have kind of been, it's just weird and like changey, and just me wrestling with like what I want and how I want to do it and all that stuff. And now I feel like I can say that I'm working in the outdoor industry. I think that's probably legitimate. But yeah, I don't think I had quite put together that. I don't think any of that would have been happening without meeting you, because like I met you in Arkansas when you were on a shoot for Sitka with Hank Shaw, and I was just backing Hank up in the kitchen because I've known him for a long time, and I live in Arkansas, so like I'm the person he can call to chop his onions and do all that kind of stuff.
The Trinity. That's when I learned about the Trinity.
The Trinity, yeah. And it's not the miracle, it's the Trinity. And then we just ended up, because you were taking pictures of Hank and his food and stuff, so we just ended up hanging out a bunch and talking. And then you were super generous and you gave me a bunch of your waterfowl kit. And I took that stuff back in a trash bag, like one big trash bag.
Probably because it stunk.
Well, just because there was so much of it. And I told Marianne, I was like, oh my God, holy shit, like I just got like all this Sitka stuff, because Sitka was like aspirational, right? At that point in my life. I mean, it would still be aspirational if I wasn't, working for them in some regard. But I was just like, I was really struck by the generosity of it, And then, long story short, you talked to people at Sitka and they talked to me, and now I'm doing stuff with them and am super stoked and, dare I say, blessed to be able to do it. But, I guess I kind of wonder, and we talked about this a little bit, but it seems like that's part of what you're doing too. Like Justin over there in Hawaii, or me, or like different people. I don't know. You're almost kind of like you're like a talent scout or something, man, or like a. And it's interesting too, because and I'm seeing it with like your son and just like me on this hunt. Like you're super kind and super generous, man. Like very, very much so. But you're also like, you want everybody to earn it. You know what I mean? Like you'll help, but you're not going to hold anybody's hand and you're not going to wipe their butt, right? So maybe this is just selfish and maybe it's just for me, but I'm kind of interested in like when you find these people who you're going to sprinkle some fairy dust on and like change their lives, like what are you seeing in them, or like what are you attracted to, or what do you dig about those folks?
That's a good. It just makes sense, right? Like when I met you, I was just like, yeah. So part of it is like I've been working with Sitka for a very long time, and the direction that they've wanted to head, which is showing more like the food aspect, which I'm very passionate about. Mm-hmm. Food and cooking, and especially wild game and my garden, how that all fits into eating in my daily life. And so everyone that I've met or tried to bring into the family, right, all has those similar traits. They're all good people. They're all unique in their environments, and obviously with Sitka, they're all hunters, but they're not just like killers, they're very, what's the right word? Like kind with they're conscientious of their quarry, mm-hmm. right? They use as much as they can, and they enjoy and love cooking it, and want to be good stewards of the land and their local communities, and I think, that's what Sitka, in my mind, moving forward, like those are the people we want to elevate. So when I met like you, I was just like, this is the dude. If we're going to do these stories moving forward, you're like the perfect position for that, like Lindsay and Justin, yeah. Like they're all like, they embody that, embody what Sitka aspires to be, right? And so that's like, it was easy for me to like go back and be like, hey, I met this dude, Jonathan. We should work with him at some point in the future. he's got a really unique story. And I meet a lot of people like that, and sometimes they listen and sometimes they don't, and that's fine. It kind of depends on marketing and their needs and their people and what they're after at some point in time. But I pushed for you for for a while. I was like, no, this one needs to happen because it's Justin wasn't me. Justin, I've done shoots with him and he's become a very good friend as well. But I'm not sure how he got out there and got into the things. But you were the one of the ones I went back to and was like, yeah, this needs to happen. But I mean, you guys embody the life to me of what a hunter should be, and that's who I feel like we should tell stories about. So that's why I bring it up.
Well, thanks for that, man. Like, thank you for doing that. Because I do think that I think it's had like a substantive effect on my life and my family's life, and like what I'm doing and what my wife's doing and how we can raise our children and stuff. So I mean, I'm actually kind of verklempt, as you would say in Yiddish. Anyway, man, so we did all that, we became buddies, and then you invited me out here on this elk hunt for this. It's kind of like a long tag, like there's a long opportunity for it, this cow tag. It's like October through the end of
Well, it starts so it's if you have the cow tag I'm assuming yours might be the same way, but for residents, you can hunt the cow tag during rifle bull season, right? So if you're out there hunting a bull and you see a cow and you have the tag, you can take the cow. That's why that chunk of October's in there. But then I think they don't open the tag and then it goes from like November to the end of January. So you have like a 3-month session to potentially kill a cow.
Yeah, which is so. And you had described it to me as like a meat hunt, right? Because there's not these. I mean, I'm right behind you. Is what you told me is not a big bull elk skull, but it is an enormous, like a rocking chair on a horse's skull, eloquently silhouetting the American flag, and right underneath that a BlackDuck Revival duck strap. But so I'll be totally honest with you, man. I was gonna bail on this hunt like a month ago. I was like, dude, I'm gone. I've been gone a ton. It's wearing on my family. It's blah, 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 all these excuses, right? Not all these excuses. It was that, and then it was like, I'm not like in great shape right now. I'm like been eating frickin' honey buns and duck camp and shit. And I knew it was, I've lived my entire life at like 250 feet of elevation. I knew the elevation was going to kick my ass. I knew the terrain was going to kick my ass. I don't think I knew how much the snow was going to kick my ass, because it was, a lot of times we were shin deep, knee deep. We got yesterday into some almost waist deep stuff, man, which is just like trying to work through. But I kind of had a come to Jesus meeting with myself about 10 days ago, and I was like, no, man. I was like, I want to go hang out with this dude. I want to do this hunt. I want to just, make a course correction and just stop the bullshit that's making me not be where I want to be, and go do this deal, man. So, and man, I'll tell you what, I'd say more than a lot of other things in my life, it's like something I'm glad I did, because it's been so cool. Like beyond, like, there's been a lot of reasons it's been really cool. I think one of the best parts, man, has been hanging out with you and like seeing your family and seeing this community of people that are your friends and how you guys interact. And that's been really special and cool and like gratifying to be around. And then getting to be in this physical environment. Like, man, I'm looking through the garage window over your neighbor's shed, and I'm looking at a snowy mountaintop. It's almost like the antithesis of where I live. Like, where I live, I'm spending all this time in bayous and stuff. Bayous are by nature very, very flat. It's like where a body of water ends and spreads out into to the terrestrial plane, right? And I love that. I was just telling you earlier, like that's one of my favorite places to be.
How deep's a bayou? Is there like a depth normal?
I mean, it can depend, but I mean, I'm floating through stuff that's a foot deep, 2 feet deep.
You catch catfish in a foot deep water?
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Oh, really? Oh.
I mean, now it'll pool out, so it'll like channel out and be like narrow.
Sure.
And then it'll pull out, but like, I mean, the big stuff in those bayous, like the bowls where they kind of collect and then spread back out, I mean, might be like 12 feet. It's not deep at all. I mean, that's by nature, a bayou is flat.
Yeah.
But I think I'm seeing more and more as I've been traveling this last year. Like, it's super important to see other places and to see how other people live and, you know, to see how other people hunt. Because, I mean, I've got transferable hunting skills that I can take to different enterprises. But, like, man, it was so hard. I feel like by the third day I was starting to be able to pick out elk. But, like, you'd be like, you see those elk over there? And I'm like, I don't see any elk. What are you talking about, man? Like, it just looks like these scrub oaks or these little bushes or whatever. I could see the moose, and we've seen a ton of moose. And that's what's been cool, too, man. I've seen all these things that I'd never seen before. Like, we got to within, like, 10 yards of this big bull moose. I mean, the first 2 days we could have killed, you know, 10 bull elk, but we didn't have a tag for it, you know?
Yeah.
And then...
Those buck mule deer.
Yeah.
Those were what, 50, 60 yards?
Yeah, they were doable, man.
Yeah.
But hell, I couldn't see those. You're like, they're right there, man. And I'm like, what? But, and it's so weird because I actually really love the feeling of it because I've worked so hard to gain this sense of proficiency in my space and like my area, you know, and like I take people out all the time that are, like, they're blown away by the fact that I don't have to look up to tell you if it's a snow goose or a speck, you know? I can be inside the lodge with birds flying overhead and just hear little bits and be like, those are snow geese. Those aren't specklebellies, you know? Or I remember when I first started duck hunting, I was like, how would anybody ever be able to identify a bird on the wing?
Oh, when I first started duck hunting, I felt the same way. I'm like, what do you mean? How they all look the same, you know? And then you start picking weird little intricacies out.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, their wings sound different, and like the point of their butt feathers look different, and the way the light shines off of them, and you can start tell size relative to this, that, or the other. Without getting off on that too much. So it's been super. I've just enjoyed being in a new situation, and I've really enjoyed being in an uncomfortable situation, you know, and like something that I had to push myself in. Like the first day we went up this little knoll. I mean, when I first looked at it, I was like, how am I going to get up there? And then by the time I got up there, I had to stop like 3 times. I was sucking wind hard. And I told you, I was like, look, man, if I puke, just give me 5 minutes. I thought I was going to puke. My head was just like swimming. Like I felt like half intoxicated dealing with this altitude. And then that kind of subsided. And then like the next day, we went up this thing called the Ridge of Death, you know, and it had crunchy snow on top, and we were like post holing. Like you step on the snow and you like punch down.
Breakable crust, dude. Breakable crust is the bane of post holing.
It was hard, man, and it was uphill, and so you're struggling against all of this stuff. And in the midst of all that, I'm struggling 10 times harder, and I'm watching Jay. Like essentially for most of these hunts, I'm just looking at this guy's ass, and he's sprinting ahead of me. Some of the best points were when I could tell you were, like yesterday, when I could tell you were like stopping and being like, oh. I was like, okay, this guy's a human being. He's not just a billy goat. But like even with that, man, like it was really, really important for me. Like, and I told you, I was like, if I pass out and fall off this mountain, that's one thing. But I'm not leaving this thing with Beyer being like, man, Wilkins just quit, man. I mean, that was super important to me. And then yesterday I killed an elk, and the way we got to it, and I think honestly, the way I think the universe works is I think the reason that we killed that elk was because we kind of went the hardest way possible to get to it and got a different angle
like
on
when
them.
they talked to the other guys and they said which way we went in, and they didn't even like consider that as an option to get after these elk. I thought it would be easier, but
It was hard, man.
It was super hard, but it worked. You know?
Yeah, and
I just wanted to get ahead of them, right? And I knew, like, with, you know, having you and hunting with you for 2 days, I'm like, we need to be above them. You know, we're not going to catch these things going uphill.
Yeah.
We have to be above them, have to be able to descend on top of them, and we can get above them. We just have to do it at night. We just have to hope they're there in the morning, you know.
Yeah.
And even still, man, when we were post-holing along that ridge, that last
I was
400. Ready to give up.
Dude, that last 400
I told you I wouldn't have done it had it not been for you.
Dude, and I'm so appreciative, man. And I got to a point where I could tell by the tracks that Jay was having a crawl, you know, which honestly, it made me feel way better because I was like, okay, this is hard. This isn't just me.
Well, you get to that. There's a breakable cross is like a really hard snow layer on top of a really weak snow layer. And when it gets to the point, like, it's not thick enough for you to stand on, and it's not thin enough for you to just walk through. At times when it gets really steep, you're better off crawling because then, like, your foot, shin, and knee almost act like a snowshoe. And so you kind of have, like, 6 points of pressure on this thinner, and it's way easier. Even though you're on your hands and knees crawling, you're still burning less energy than, like, pushing through up to your knee every single time. And so you can't always do it that way, but this certain crust allowed it. And I remember when he called, and I'm like, hey, dude, you got to crawl. Like, do you see that? Because I figured you'd be able to see and tell by my tracks, like, what is this idiot doing, you know? And when you called me, I'm like, yeah, you got to crawl. You're like, oh, yeah, I've been doing that. I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad you figured that out.
And the reason I called Jay is because he was like 20 minutes ahead of me, and which was the right thing to do because, like, I just followed his footprints up this thing, and he got up on top of the ridge first and was glassing for elk, and I just struggled my way up there. But, man, why don't we talk about that a little bit? Let's describe that hunt just a little bit, and I'll interject if I feel the need to, but why don't you try and describe it a little bit?
The day you killed or everything, or what do you?
Yeah, man, you can maybe do like a brief overview because we kept getting close. Like the first day we were on them, right? And then the second day we were on them, and it stopped. It just didn't happen. And then the third day we just busted our asses and didn't. And then it looked like it wasn't going to happen, and we just kept going. It looked like it wasn't going to happen, and then it happened.
Yeah. Well, start out. There's this holler I like to hunt.
The holler.
And I've been very successful over the years with myself and with lots of other people, helping a lot of people get their first elk, and me, like, that's where I kind of cut my teeth rifle hunting for elk. And so so I know this area quite well. You drew the tag, and so our first day out, we were kind of going up one side of this holler. And then I saw some elk on the other side. And I knew, like, I could tell two of them were bulls, but we weren't quite sure. And I was pretty sure that one wasn't a cow. I didn't bring, like, I have a little spotter that I like to bring with me occasionally for this exact reason. And I didn't have it with because I'm like, whatever, we'll be fine. We don't need it. And so we drop all the way down to the bottom, go all the way up the other side, get, what was that shot, 250-ish?
Yeah.
And we got 250 yards from these things, and we're just waiting for them to stand up. We waited, and finally they stood up, and they all ended up being bulls. And so it was, like, kind of defeating, but kind of good because you don't want it. Well, not that you don't want to see it on the first night, but, like, it kind of hurts the experience if, you just crush on the first day. Like, you don't get as big a picture as you would if you were hunting somewhere for a few days.
And it's cool for someone that's never seen that to see these.
Yeah. I mean, they're amazing. They're like, bull elk are, in my mind, one of the most majestic things you can watch. So, like, yeah, we didn't get to kill anything, but, like, it was still gorgeous, and it was amazing. And we had a good time. We hike out in the dark, by headlamp back to the truck. It was an evening hunt. And then the next morning we get up early. We get out and we go up this ridge of death we referred to earlier. And I've killed lots of elk on that ridge. And it's always, I kind of say, like, if you'd walk that ridge 5 days in a row, you'll have an opportunity at an elk, And we the crust got so bad, and then my buddy killed not too far away and called me. And I'm like, yeah, we'll come help, but I want to check this one face out to just see. And we got up there and there was nothing up there. And so it was a little defeating. We saw elk there the night before, so I thought we were doing the right thing and we were going to get on top of them. And we ended up with a later start than we had planned. And the post holing and breakable crust was so horrible. We didn't quite get up as soon as we needed to. It just didn't work that day. So we did the right thing. We went out. And we're on the way to go help my buddy, and then he spotted these 3 cows, in the sagebrush or in the scrub oak. And we're like, sweet. So instead of helping him, he's butchering a cow. We had another couple buddies come up and help him. We go to try to get on these ones. We got
probably 50 yards.
50 yards from them.
Yeah.
We're like 8 yards from like this huge bull moose that was bedded and just like raking his horns and doing his own thing. And we thought they were cows until I had my spotter this time.
Yeah.
And I looked at them, and I think in my mind, because they thought they were cows, they didn't look that hard at them. And when they all stood up, they were all bulls. And so I'm like, oh, not this again. And this is after a pretty big day. And my buddy's got the elk back to the truck. And we were going to go out, but then we kind of ended up not going out that evening.
I was wrecked. I was absolutely wrecked. And I thought I could, like, get something to eat and in an hour I'd be fine. And then when I like kind of cooled down, I was like, oh dude, I'm wrecked. And then I had there just like some work things came up. And I debated about whether to say anything. And then finally I was like, man, like I'm beat down, dog.
That was good. But then we went out, regardless, we went out glassing that night. And we saw a herd of cows, which we ended up spotting. And I counted 89. And it's in this holler that I don't like hunting because it gets a lot of traffic, a lot of public it's all public, but there's a lot of people that hunt there on the lower reaches of the canyon.
And we were going to have to, we had been hunting during the week and we were going to have to hunt that day.
This is a Saturday morning. So yesterday morning was Saturday morning. So that was one of those, like, I knew there was going to be people, but 90 cows is pretty hard to pass up.
Yeah.
So we came up with a dumb plan to hike up this big peak and drop in on top of all these cows, where most people come up the bottom. And at one point, because after that, before we got out of that gully, and we're kind of traversing that hillside, man, the walking was really easy.
Yeah,
it was almost better because like the snow would like hold your foot. It wasn't like hard side hilling, and it was like super easy. And then the pitch turned, and it got a little more north facing. And then it got deep.
Yeah.
And there was that crust on top, and you're breaking through to your waist at times, your crotch. And I was just like, man. And in my head, I was just like, I got to punch this in for you. I'm like, he's out here. I convinced him to come out here. I know we're going to get to the top, and there's going to be elk. They're going to be right there. Like, I knew they're going to be right there.
That's awesome because the whole time I'm thinking like I gotta do this for Jay. Like I cannot let this dude down.
So I punched at the top and like immediately put my bonnet to the face. Like I didn't crawl because I needed to crawl. I crawled to stay low because I thought they could be right here, right where we want them to be. And I got up there and I crawled right up to some scrub, and so I stood up and I glassed, and I just see these huge elk trenches leaving this drainage, this holler. And I was just like, my heart just sank at that moment. Like, I'm just like, oh no, they're all gone. They left, they fed out of here in the night, and they moved on. And I glassed around, you could see where they had been feeding and eating the night before. And I'm just like, oh no. Like, what did I make Jonathan do? I'm like, he's going to be destroyed. We only have 2 more days. So I was like, well, it was getting really pretty out. And I'm like, oh, worst case scenarios, we take some beautiful photos, So I had a little bit of time. So I kept looking around. I'm like, God, there's got to be elk somewhere. And I did 300. Dude, I glassed everything. every direction.
Yeah, you had plenty of time, man. Because I was still coming.
I had a little bit of time. And then I see it ended up being 12 right below us. So we were in we had to move, once he got to the ridge, we maybe had to move 100 yards, and these things would have fed up to probably 100 to 200 yard shot. I'm like, oh, this is going to be perfect. And that's when I texted you. That's when you called me.
Yeah,
I'm like, I see him, dude. You're like, I'm almost there, man. I'm going to make it. I'm like, just crawl. Yeah, so you get to the top, and we're kind of coming up with a plan, and then someone from the bottom came up from the bottom and started shooting at him. And I'm like, oh, and they started moving quickly towards us. And I'm like, we need to move. So we wrap around this little peak, and we try to get it, and, man, the closest we could get is 450, I think was it?
Yeah, like
450.
Yeah.
It was something. It was like not a safe shot, and nor a shot either one of us wanted you to take.
Yeah, I mean, I was not capable of taking that shot.
So, and they were moving. But there was a thought for a little bit for me. I'm like, well, if they come around this side of the ridge, we're going to have a shot. But they chose to go on the other side of the ridge. And so, now we're like, well, we should follow them. Because as they left the ridge, they kind of pinned us. We had to cross this big opening to get to where we wanted to take a shot from, which would have been great. But we were pinned now in the open. And when they came, they could see us, so we couldn't move towards them. So once they disappeared over this ridge, we kind of hauled ass after them to get to this ridge. And when I got over that ridge, there was nothing. I'm like, come on. And then they were going over one more, and you got up, and we took a couple photos. And I'm like, I think we should let's keep following these tracks. Like, they looked comfortable. I don't think they're going to continue going, and who knows what happened to them. But we followed their tracks and came around this one point, and I couldn't see much. So I glassed around, and I see, what was that number?
It was like 50.
Yeah, like 50, 60 elk right below us, like 500 yards. And I'm like, oh, I didn't find these ones, but there's more, And I range them, and you come up to me, and we kind of have like a little discussion and trying to figure out what our move. And I'm just like, I think we're going to be great, dude. We're going to meet weasel out here. And I literally thought they would come right at that opening that was like 150 yards away from us.
Yeah.
I really thought they were going to feed up to that and then bed in that opening in the sun. I really thought they were going to do that. And then people started shooting at them.
And shooting at them. And shooting
it
at
was
them.
ridiculous and like unethical shot. That's what really infuriates me, Like I know there are people who can shoot long range, and I don't fault them for it. But most long range shooters need one bullet. You know? You don't shoot 20.
Yeah, and that's
so clearly what they were doing was unethical.
Yeah,
they were just pulling the trigger and hoping. And then there was another group on the other side of them doing it. So at that point in time, I'm like, oh, man, we're directly above these things. They're going to come running up this ridge right at us. And they didn't. They just started laying down and bedding for the day. Because I think they're just like, well, none of these idiots can get at us. We're good right here.
And it was like really deep snow. And it's hard for us to move in it. It's hard for them to move in it, too.
Yeah. So I think they just didn't. There was about 15 or 20 that started moving in our direction. And I kept getting closer and closer. And it was like, well, we might get a shot on these ones. And when you tried to get your rifle dialed up in that tree, and so I've just never been a big fan of that shot. And I was like, hey, man, can you just try like laying down on your pack and like getting like real stable? And you lay down and you're like, man, this is way more stable than that tree.
Yeah. And I mean, it was slightly uncomfortable because I was pointed downhill.
Yeah,
a little
like
bit.
if you're not like a mountain hunter, like laying downhill, shooting downhill on a rifle is like not something people do regularly.
Yeah,
right? It's maybe not a normal thing you would do. But we had nothing but time. They weren't going anywhere. They weren't spooked. The other people had quit shooting, so they had chilled out, and they had just kind of spread out, and they were starting to eat. And I'm like, man, dude, if they make it to that little sun spot, they're at 280. I'm like, do you feel comfortable with that? And you're like, yeah, I think I feel comfortable. Like, just take your time and no hurry. And I'm just like, just let me know before you take a shot so I can watch the one you're going to start shooting at. Because elk are just, man, they're just notorious badasses. And what they can take, case in point, you tell me which one you're looking for. I'm watching it. You shoot nothing. I'm watching. You shoot again, nothing. You look at me and, did I hit it? I'm like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, I said, what do you think? And you said, it's still alive.
Yeah, it's still standing. And like what I was taught, what I taught my son, I taught my wife, man, if an elk's head's still up, you keep shooting. Like that, they're so tough. And then I'm watching, and you had 2 shots down, and so the herd started moving away, but that one was staying still. And I'm like, well, you clearly hit it, but it's also still alive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shoot again. You shot again. Nothing. I'm like, something's happening. I just can't see it, you know. And then it laid down, and I'm like, well, that's a good sign, but its head's still up. And this is all in a period of maximum a minute, you know, right? 4th shot, boom. I'm like, I don't know, dude. And then you're like, should I shoot it again? And then I watched the cow, like, were you watching that when that happened? Through your scope? Yeah. Like, should I shoot it again? And I saw it put its neck up, leaned its neck way back in the air. And I'm like, no, you're good. And then laid its head down. It was done. And I was like, okay, so we're going to need to come and investigate what ended up happening. Which I think you only missed once. You'd for sure hit it the first time, and it was like back. It was quartering away, and it was back lung exiting low gut. So like it was dead after the first shot.
Yeah, it was
which is why
it was
it didn't
three.
go anywhere.
It was 3 lethal shots.
Yes, 3 fully lethal shots. It just is amazing to me that they can just sit there and take that like a deer would jump. Or mule kick or something. Like you would be able to tell, like, oh no, you hit that thing for sure. Excuse me. But this thing just stood there and took it, which I've seen so many times. And then it's like you never even know. Like, how do I, did I hit that thing? Did I not hit that thing? So it's just super impressive. But yeah, you did great. Killed the biggest animal you've ever killed before.
Yeah.
We took every single scrap of meat off that thing. Outside of my kills, that was probably the cleanest thing I've ever seen. What was you saying? I'm happiest if I don't leave anything for the buzzards. I want the buzzards to be pissed off when they get here.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, man, we went through that thing. We went through that thing. There was not really anything left.
Yeah, dude, cheek meat. You've
never seen anyone take the cheek meat?
No, I do have fish all the time, and it's so tiny, right? Like every time you always take cheeks out of every fish. It's the best part, but I've never seen take it. I've never even considered the amount of meat I've carved off of elk heads and deer heads to Euro mount them. I've never considered like taking that chunk of cheek meat off. I can take tongues. I always take tongues. I love tongue. But it was kind of a comical thing. I'm like, that's something I've never done before.
Well, and too, man, like, excuse me, like, one, that's something I do. But, it's like we were talking about, we had another conversation we don't need to go into about class and all that stuff. Like, why you want to conduct yourself with class. Like, part of that too, and I told you that part of that for me is like my legacy. Like, what are people going to say about me when I'm gone or when I'm not hanging out with them, right? And like that's part of that too. Like, I want like come out of this hunt, man. I want you to. I'm what I'm hoping for is you saying, man, I had a great time with this dude. He busted his ass, like he did something that was hard for him, and he used every single bit of that animal that he could possibly do. Because
those are all true things.
Well, I'm glad, man, because then then I feel like because part of that too is like. That's a way to show appreciation for you and you opening your home and you taking the time out of your schedule for this and all that. But yeah, man, you asked me how stoked I was about it, and it kind of took a while for it to all set in because to me, it was such an example of the kill being anticlimactic. Not that it wasn't like super cool to kind of complete that part of it. But that wasn't even the end of it. Like we had a hump down to get to that elk. And then
it's nuts when at 300 yards, when it was a little valley in between.
Yeah, it was scrub
and there's snow
oaks.
up to your waist and scrub oak.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit. Like you're kind of like floored, like, oh, we're going to be there in like 2 minutes. And it's like, 15, 20 minutes later, you're rolling up on it.
And then it's a big animal, and you got to manhandle it and work with it where it's at. You're not dragging it out. And then we loaded up those packs and had to go back across this gully and get up the side of this hill onto this ridge. And like that whole time, I'm still soaking up the entire experience of it, And then what was real cool is we got to the end of it, and you had two buddies, which I love that you have this community of folks that when someone kills an elk, like people drop what they're doing and they come help get it out because it's hard work. And Eddie and Eric came, and they came in on like skis, which was super cool to watch. And like, I mean, because, man, when I had half of that elk on my back and we were going uphill, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be hard.
When we had that little bit of hill, that was very what went through my head. I'm like, man, you can't pack out an elk and not have like a little bit uphill. Like, you got to understand, like it's so much work. It's very, like, I love it, but it's like, man, you got to understand what's like go up a little bit of hill,
No,
I probably could have made a different way, but I'm like, this seems like a less scrub oak, which to me is less work than I'd rather go uphill and avoid scrub oak than downhill through scrub oak.
Well, I liked this scrub oak because I could hold on to it and pull myself up. But yeah, then those dudes met us and we all so then instead of two of us carrying it out, it was four of us. And, it felt great. Like, even though you still had a load on your back, it felt like you took a 4-year-old off your back,
Yeah.
And we spread it out. I mean, it still took, at least another hour longer to get out of there.
Man, even when we hit the flat, I was floored at how long it took. Like I said, I had never killed one in that holler before.
I mean, it was far back, man.
It was probably the deepest cow I've ever been a part of removing from the mountains. Like it was even I told you that yesterday when that first herd didn't work out. I was kind of like, well, this is a long ways back in there. I don't have to deal with packing it out that far there. But as soon as we got another work, that didn't even cross my mind. It's like, oh no, there's more. Let's go get them. Which are even deeper.
Yeah, and it had all of it, and it was like, and what was so wild about it too is the whole way in. Like, I'm barely wearing anything. Like, I'm just wearing this super thin layer on top because you're exerting yourself so much. Your body's just a furnace. But then as soon as we stopped and we were, like, trying to figure out what to do and we were waiting, like, we're both just, like, it's super cold. We were, like, at 7,100 feet elevation, sitting in feet of snow. And, like, the gloves I had on had become thoroughly soaked from crawling through the snow. I'm freezing. I have to get out and put a puffy on, and I'm sitting there flexing my muscles, trying to get the shivering to stop so I can take a shot. And my hands were killing me. And that's when I reached in the pack and pulled out a pair of truck gloves. Warmed me to the core and let me make that shot. Truck gloves. Go truck yourself. But yeah, man. And then it was just the best feeling ever. We came back. Getting those boots off my feet felt great, man, because my feet were killing me, dog. And got cleaned up and just ate pizza and hung out with your family and your friend and watched football. And I mean, I haven't been up past 9 o'clock the last 2 days because I'm just destroyed. I mean, I was trying to be polite. I could have gone to sleep yesterday at 5 o'clock at night, And but man, it's kind of amazing, and that's really what I've been missing is that, dude, you're using every part of yourself to do that hunt. I've absolutely come out of this experience with a totally reestablished and not reestablished, establishing a real respect for Western hunting, because I think I thought it was folks they hump it hard for 2 weeks out of the year, and that's what they do, and that's their hunting. They burn their vacation time for it. And I thought maybe I was in some sort of more righteous position because I'm living this lifestyle where I'm doing it all year round. But like I've come out of this with such a better understanding about it. It's like, dude, the only way you're going to do that kind of hunt, or like I can't even imagine when it's warm and you're trying to get 30 yards away from these animals and do it in early season. Like you have to live that year round to be able to perform in those conditions. You know, like to be able to hammer up after them and beat them, and you see them and then you know, get over there. Like it's really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can adjust to the elevation, and like, I mean, you're not puking because you walk up a flight of stairs like I was feeling. But man, I really did. I thought about that a lot while I was, you know, looking at your footsteps going up mountains. It was like, man, I have a ton of respect for this style of hunting. And I felt like too, man, it was a really great way for me, it was a great way to like take account of myself, you know? And I found many ways where I was lacking. And like nobody wants to feel that way. Like you want to feel like you're the baddest dude on planet Earth, but
it's not always the case, though, right?
No, man. And dude, like lying to yourself and believing your own bullshit is like one of the worst things someone can do. Yeah. And that's kind of what I told you. Like I wanted to come out here and hang out with you, and I also just wanted to get my ass thoroughly kicked, which it wasn't kicked. I had some reserves left. Like I feel like I could still function, but it was a good whooping, man. It really was a real good whooping. And I think that might be my favorite part of it, man, is that I've always kind of lived a life where I was getting that whooping from work. And in the last year and a half, it's been kind of the first time where I wasn't getting that. And I've really been trying to figure out like how to incorporate it back into my life. And I think I had developed this mindset, you know, that people that were creating physical strife in their life were like cheating, or they weren't like real ones. You know, I'm like, man, I'm up here hauling shingles or whatever, man. Like, I'm not going to a class and, you know, doing battle ropes and then, you know, like finding this hunt that's hard for no damn reason. And I've got a totally different point of view about it, which I'm stoked about, because it's great to find places when you're wrong, you know. And I was wrong about some of my assessments, and you know, some of it's going to be how you do it and how you go after it, because we saw plenty of people that like they're not willing to put that in to go get an animal, you know.
No, and some people aren't, and and that's fine, right? That everyone has their own way, their own desire to do stuff.
But it was fulfilling in a different way because of that.
And like I said, I love that hunt so much, man. And to be able to, like, I love showing people that hunt. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do. I try to take someone new every year, man. It was nice with you because a lot of times it's new hunters. It's so much nicer when I don't have to do everything, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about you and your rifle. It's like, yeah, you just take the shot, you know, like you're good.
Yeah, if I can get there.
Yeah. You got there.
Hey, I did, man. You know, slow and steady, man. I was thinking about like the tortoise in the hair the whole way up. I thought about a lot of stuff. You had lots of time. But like the best parts of it were when, you know, like the first day you were kind of trying to like stay with me, and then I think you were like, dude, if I stay with this dude, like his pace is frustrating for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and get where I need to be and let this guy get there. And that was great, because then I wasn't trying to keep up with you. I was just,
yeah, I told you, man, go at your own pace. And there's part of me that's just like, I'm going to be more of a benefit if I get up there and I can like find him and look around, and like, I don't know, in my head I was just like, it makes more sense for me to get up there.
It was the right call, man.
And yeah, no, it worked out great.
Yeah. Well, anyway, man, seriously, thank you so much for that, Jay. That was I feel like you might. I mean, you're just gonna be responsible for all these course corrections in my life, man. I'm gonna have to have another child and name them Jay.
Sorry, Marianne.
Who said I was having a child with Marianne? Okay, no, that's a joke, dear. I'm trying to think about the best way to wrap this up, man. So tonight we're going to have like a shared meal with your family and friends, and I brought some speckled belly geese up here, and we've like had a pot of stock going for 3 days, just concentrating, and it's gonna have like upland birds that you've hunted, and we didn't even talk about that. We went out this morning and had this cool duck hunt, man, like hunting this little skinny water up in the mountains. And we were post holing through snow to get to this spot. And then
it's going to be your new favorite thing to do. You're going to have to find a way to go post holing in Arkansas.
Oh, well, we can do it there. It's just in mud, man. And I killed my first goldeneye because, normally I'm killing dabbling ducks. I don't really kill divers very much, and that was super fun. And I'm standing there, just kill a duck, and I'm standing there looking up on the side of a mountain, and there's like a cow, moose, and a calf.
So I heard an elk this morning.
Yeah,
heard elk while we were sitting in the blind.
Yeah, drinking coffee. Cool. Yeah,
it
was super cool, man.
But that's gonna go in the gumbo tonight, right?
Yeah,
you can put those ducks in.
I'll put that goldeneye in there, and yeah, man, it's gonna be
a pig I shot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I'm gonna put some pig from. It'll be fun. It'll be a critter stew.
That's what gumbo's supposed to be, man. Yeah. It's like whatever you got, and we're just super lucky that we have all sorts of things to put in it. But and man, it kind of worked out perfect because I can kind of jet home a day early and spend an extra day with my family because December and January have suddenly turned to in my life to where like I'm not home, and I've got little girls that I miss and a wife that I miss and that I'm sure would like me to help wipe butts and handle nap time and stuff. So, and man, it really has been probably, one of the best trips I've ever taken in my life, man. I'm just so appreciative of everything you've been willing to share with me. And, thanks a bunch, dude. It's just this has been a pleasure. It's a pleasure to know you and get to be your friend and all that stuff, man.
Man, likewise. It was so fun. I'm glad you came out.
Yeah, it's been a ball, man. You might have trouble keeping me away from Utah.
You're welcome anytime, man. I told you.
Well, yeah, man. So in conclusion, I always ask people this, but like what's the best way for folks to see your work and keep track of what you're doing or holler at you if they've got a magical opportunity for you?
Instagram's probably the best. Which I think is just jaybeyer.com, JAYBEYER, or not .com, just JAYBEYER on Instagram.
It's Jay Beyer Imaging.
Is it Jay Beyer Imaging?
Yeah.
My website's jaybeyer.com. Jay Beyer Imaging on Instagram. Jay Beyer is my email. Anyone can get a hold of me, any of those places.
And then, they can see your work in Patagonia and Yeti stuff, lots of Sitka stuff.
Yep, Mystery Ranch, yep, all those are the people that keep meat on the table, those guys.
Yeah, literally and figuratively. Well, man, again, man, thank you so much, and thanks for doing the podcast, and thank you guys for listening. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the BlackDuck Revival podcast. As always, it's produced by me, Jonathan Wilkins, and Brian Sachs. If you like what you're listening to, please help us out. Leave a 5-star review, subscribe, and a written review always helps tremendously as well. You can also tell a friend or post on social media about the podcast. That kind of goes into the ether and the zeitgeist, and you never know who will tune in because of it. If you want to keep up with me, what I'm doing, and all things BlackDuck Revival, please check me out on social media. It's just BlackDuck Revival, or go to the website, blackduckrevival.com. Here in the coming weeks, we'll be opening the books for catfish excursions. That's limb lining, trot lining, bird watching, all those things in the bayous and backwaters of East Arkansas. That'll be taking place in the spring and early summer of this year. And we'll also be releasing the handful of dates for duck and goose hunt schools coming later at the end of this year and into the beginning of next year. So if you want to know what's going on with that, please check out the website. There's an email list on there you can sign up for. And if you're on the email list, you'll get notified about those dates a few days before everybody else does on social media. So until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you later.